Brenda Vance figured a formal legal threat on stiff linen paper would make me fold like a cheap card table, but she fundamentally misunderstood who she was dealing with. Hit that notification bell right now, because the look on Brenda's face when the county zoning enforcement officers pulled up to her front gate with heavy machinery was pure, unadulterated cinema. You see, while Brenda spent her entire tenure as HOA president policing lawn heights and mailbox colors, she completely overlooked the minor detail that Oakridge Estates' grand security entrance and primary access road encroached 12 feet onto county right-of-way and our family's historic deeded access. For 20 years, the association operated without a valid highway occupancy permit, relying purely on intimidation and cozy backroom handshakes with corrupt former county officials. When Brenda's demolition notice arrived on my Monday morning breakfast table, I didn't panic. I simply walked into the county annex office, pulled the original 1964 highway plats, and had a quiet cup of coffee with the chief zoning inspector. By Tuesday afternoon, the tables had turned in the most brutal way imaginable. My phone started buzzing violently on the kitchen counter, flashing Brenda's contact photo, her smug, perfectly manicured face frozen on the screen. I let it ring 3 times, smiling softly to myself, before finally swiping to answer. "Liam, what is the meaning of this?" Brenda shrieked through the phone speaker, her voice trembling with raw panic and disbelief. "There are county heavy equipment trucks parked right outside our main security gate. They are measuring the perimeter and talking about tearing down our electronic entry pillars." I calmly took a sip of my coffee, letting her anxious breathing fill the empty space between us. "Good morning, Brenda," I replied smoothly, my voice as calm as a summer lake. "Sounds like your gate is right in the way of county infrastructure. Bit of an eyesore, don't you think?" "An eyesore?" she gasped, her composure completely shattering. "That gate cost our association $40,000. It protects our community. You cannot just have the county tear it down because you're throwing a childish tantrum over a rotting barn." "First of all, my barn has stood strong for 60 years and isn't going anywhere," I fired back, my tone hardening instantly. "Second of all, that gate isn't just an eyesore. It's an illegal obstruction, sitting squarely on county right-of-way and our family's deeded easement." Silence descended on the line, suffocating and dead. What are you talking about?" she whispered, the corporate arrogance entirely drained from her voice. "I'm talking about your illegal entry point, Brenda," I said, leaning back in my kitchen chair. "Your developer cut corners back in the 90s, and your board never bothered to secure the proper highway occupancy permits. The county inspectors reviewed the plat maps this morning, and they issued an immediate removal order. When an arrogant HOA board sends you a certified letter demanding you tear down your family barn within 48 hours, most people panic. But when they threaten a generational landowner who happens to sit on the county zoning appeals board, that is when a routine neighborhood power trip turns into an absolute legal bloodbath. Hit that subscribe button right now, because watching a power-tripping HOA president realize that her multi-million-dollar gated community is entirely illegal and that the county is about to tear down her precious front security gate is the most satisfying form of karmic justice you will ever witness. My name is Liam, and my grandfather built our timber-framed barn long before the sprawling cookie-cutter roofs of Oakridge Estates ever cast a shadow across our pasture line. For years, the subdivision's self-appointed queen, Brenda Vance, treated our historic farm like an eyesore that ruined her pristine subdivision view. She left threatening notes on my tractor, she harassed my livestock handlers, and finally, she slapped a formal demolition notice on my barn door, claiming it violated neighborhood architectural codes. Brenda thought she could bully her way into stealing our land, but she had no idea that her fancy gated community was sitting on a massive, unpermitted encroachment, and my grandfather's old barn was about to become the wrecking ball that brought her entire empire down. Brenda's breath caught in her throat, the chilling reality of her administrative negligence crashing down on her like an avalanche. You pulled strings with the county," she stammered, her voice shaking with desperate rage as she looked out her window toward the flashing yellow hazard lights of the county trucks. "You manipulated the zoning board just to get back at us over your barn. I didn't manipulate anything, Brenda, I replied coldly. I simply filed a formal property encroachment inquiry, and the county inspectors did their job. When you live in a glass house, or behind an illegal gate, you shouldn't throw demolition notices at people whose grandfathers owned the valley. Liam, please, let's be reasonable, she pleaded, her voice cracking as panic completely took over. Can we talk about this? Can we drop the barn violations, and maybe we can work something out with the county regarding the permits? The time for talking was before you slapped an illegal 48-hour demolition notice on my historic property, I said, my voice unwavering. My barn stays, your gate goes. Those are the only terms on the table. You can't do this. The entire neighborhood will panic, she cried out. Then I suggest you go out there and explain to your neighbors why their expensive security entrance is about to be reduced to a pile of rubble, I said sharply. With a firm tap of my finger, I ended the call, cutting off her frantic pleading right as the heavy roar of a county bulldozer engine echoed across the valley. By Thursday afternoon, the grand security entrance of Oakridge Estates wasn't a symbol of elite suburban prestige anymore. It was a heap of shattered concrete and twisted metal. The county excavation crew made quick work of the illegal entry pillars, hauling away the electronic gates, while dozens of bewildered residents stood in their manicured driveways, watching their property values take a massive, irreversible hit. Brenda Vance resigned from the board before the sun even set, fleeing the neighborhood to escape the furious backlash of homeowners demanding answers for the multi-$1,000 special assessment now required to fix the zoning mess. As for our historic family barn, it still stands proudly at the edge of our pasture, catching the golden evening light just as it has for 6 decades. Every single morning, I walk out onto the porch with a hot cup of coffee, looking past the open, unobstructed entrance of our valley. Down below, the residents of Oakridge Estates finally learned a timeless lesson about neighborhood politics. Never pick a fight with a generational landowner, because when you try to tear down their barn, the county just might tear down your entire front door.